That's the line. And it goes back to what you said. You can use AI and AI can be powerful to your business. But what you really need are systems and processes. You can use AI to help build those systems and processes, but then you also need really good people. And some people will be replaced and some people will just get more awesome because of AI. The only way to lose your job to AI if you're working for me is if you're not using it to get better.
Welcome to the Home Service Hacks Podcast, the show for contractors who refuse to settle for average. Hosted by Bill Brown, licensed HVAC contractor, AI and automation expert, and founder of ServiceTitan Hacks Community. Each episode features real conversations with contractors, tech founders, and innovators who are reshaping the trades, from AI and automation to pricing, marketing, and management. If it's working in the field, you'll hear about it here. Let's get into it.
Hey, welcome back to the show. This is Bill, and today I'm joined by Paul Redman, the president of Contractor Commerce. Contractor Commerce helps HVAC, plumbing, and electrical companies add true e-commerce functionality to their websites. This gives homeowners the ability to see pricing, shop for replacement systems, and even buy fully installed systems online. And it's helping contractors modernize the way they sell and meet customers where they are, which is online. So, Paul, before we dig into that wonderful pricing controversy, I want to start with your story. And you've had an interesting path through the trades and into technology. So can you share with me your journey and how you got started in home services and what ended up leading you to Contractor Commerce?
Yeah, thank you so much. And Bill, thanks for the opportunity to be here. And thanks for being a supporter of our company and our people and by extension, our customers. I want to say ended up in this world on accident, but it was sort of on purpose because my first real job out of college was with a major manufacturer. And I was just hungry for a good start and a shot. And I always viewed myself as a corporate guy. I knew that as long as I got into the corporate world, I would be fine. And so I started down that path and was a territory manager and, for the major manufacturer Lennox, and had early in the process of that job, knew nothing about the industry. So I had to do a lot of Googling, had to do a lot of just research to make sure that I was somewhat credible. And this was right about the time that the iPhone came out. And I noticed very, very early that as I was trying to dig into, wiring diagrams and trying to understand, all these installation instructions just to have some credibility, that there was this space around technology and iPhone and iPads and all these sort of things that my customers had a lot of questions about. So I just kind of navigated naturally early in my career over toward things that I found interesting related to technology. And that curiosity, helped me start a really, really good career, and ended up moving several times and having several jobs kind of on a national scale, whether it be in e-commerce or in digital and marketing and so on. And so I had moved around the country 3 or 4 times. And, at each stop we would have a kid. And, from Ohio to Colorado to Texas to North Carolina, we landed in North Carolina 10 years ago. And I would be driving all over the Carolinas, just listening to podcasts at the time. And at the time, Tim Ferriss was my go-to podcast. And he would have entrepreneurs and different business owners and different creative people on the podcast. And it was just it was just like music to my ears, listening to how people had an idea, saw a problem, took a chance and went about solving it and created a business as a result. And I think his name is Jonathan Mullenweg, the founder of WordPress, that pushed me over the edge. And I wanted to get into a startup. I just always wanted to, have a huddle of small people that I would call friends, that we could just grab a whiteboard and figure things out. And in some way I could do that in the corporate world, but so many of the things I would learn in reading startup books, they just didn't apply. There was just too much structure and too much hierarchy and those sort of things. So long story short, left the corporate world to try, working with contractors directly through technology and marketing and those sort of things. And I'm sparing a lot of details, but landed it here at Contractor Commerce with a friend of mine, Will, in 2021. And it's been quite the journey.
Awesome. That's great. That's a great story. So 15 years in the trade, starting out as a TM. That's awesome. So you get the building great relationships with the decision makers at these at these shops, and I'm sure they tell you a lot, and you know a lot about the struggles that they have. I remember talking to my TMs that would come in, and they would always ask about, they'd ask about lead flow and things like that, and we would kind of just dump all those things on them. And sometimes TMs helped, connect you with the manufacturer to get some marketing help and things like that. But I found that going with specific agencies was a little bit better than going through the manufacturer, even though it was a little cheaper. But so you moved over to Contractor Commerce in 2021. How long has Contractor Commerce been doing this? I know they started, I think first off, like what I remember is they were selling filters online and then maybe came into equipment. So how long you guys been doing that?
To understand the story of Contractor Commerce, you first need to understand and hear the story of Will Hausch. So you're from Columbus, Ohio originally, right?
I am. Yeah. So Will, and you went to Wittenberg,
Yep.
right? So yeah, man, I went to Otterbein.
That's
so another
right.
small Ohio
NCAC.
school. So
That's right.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Nice.
small world. So Will's from just north of Cincinnati, Lebanon, Ohio, and he grew up as a contractor. And he sold his family's contracting business in 2011 or 12 and went all in on e-commerce. So from 2012 through really today, we've become one of the largest direct to consumer filter companies in the country. And we have got 5 warehouses, and they're stocked floor to ceiling with filters that we're shipping thousands of units a day all over the country with next day delivery and so on. And again, I'm leaving out a lot of critical details there, but it was actually 2018. One of the businesses that Will was running was HVAC.com. And that's critical to the...
I'm familiar with that.
So critical to the story of Contractor Commerce is that for about a 10-year period of time, Will had his filter business, but he also had HVAC.com. And HVAC.com lived a long life with us and with Will. It did a lot of different things. It was a directory. It was a resource for homeowners, et cetera. We tested a lot of different things, but the number one thing we learned from HVAC.com was the demand for pricing information and transactions directly online without a contractor. So the number one pages on the website, which happened to be the most visited website in the HVAC industry, more than manufacturers, believe it or not, just by nature of the name alone.
Yeah, what a great domain.
Oh, it was solid. And that's another story that I'll let Will tell that story about watching that thing go live and pulling the trigger. And to this day, I'll let Will tell that. But he bought the domain, I think 2012. And overwhelmingly obvious that where customers were going on the website was anything related to pricing. How much does a system cost? How can I buy it? How much is the installation? Where do I get it? All those sort of things. And so you've got Will here, who has sold his family business and basically opened online stores for air filters. And you've got him also owning HVAC.com, where homeowners are just by the millions coming there to buy stuff. And his idea was, hey, everyone shops online for just about everything. Why don't we make it so that contractors can have an online store? And so we launched Contractor Commerce with this idea that, hey, let's let contractors buy physical products off of your website. So for the first couple of years, we would work with contractors who primarily already had like a direct filter selling program or had filters involved in their memberships, those sort of things. And we would help them stand up an online store to automate filter deliveries. And that business did really well, and it was growing, and our customers asked us for more. They kept saying like, well, hey, I want to sell the memberships and I want to sell the tune up. And, then our more, kind of forward thinking contractors would say, why can't I just sell a 2.5-ton heat pump and air handler directly on the website? And we would say, tell us more. And so we built the capability, not just to sell physical products, but to do what we call buying journeys, which is letting a customer go through a customizable process that the contractor sets up to get as far down the path as the contractor is comfortable. And so that's when we incorporated that and some other kind of, proof points and case studies that the business is just, it's grown so much since then.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story of how you guys got here today. So, I was a contractor from 2012 through last year, and I remember getting on the Service Roundtable forum in 2013 and posting something about putting prices online. So I'm what they call the elder millennial, right? I'll be 45 next month. I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm right on the edge of the next generation. If my generation's ever able to afford houses, I think that we're getting into that. But once, I feel, this is just my hypothesis, when the great wealth transfer happens from the boomers to our generation, we start buying homes and, improving our homes and actually have real money and college debt gets paid off, all that good stuff. Then contractors are going to need to appeal to the new type of buyer. And so I feel that my generation will be the new type of buyer. And I, thought about that many years ago. Why do they not have prices online for this? And whenever I shop for anything, I always wanted pricing, maybe not exact pricing, but something that would give me an idea. So I felt educated before I, called somebody. So when I made that post, and I do a post like this every couple of years because it gets crazy engagement, I get some contractors that love it. Oh, we've done it forever. We do great. And then some that just hate it and freak out and go and get really upset about it. Right. So it's so controversial to put pricing online. I wonder if all industries have gone through this, like if the auto industry did that too, right?
2012.
They probably freaked out.
Yeah. They thought it was a race to the bottom. They thought that as soon as, Matt Crestrucci Ford would show that it's $5,000, someone else would show $49.99 and they would never see that customer again. And that's the opposite of what happened. But yeah, it's such a controversial subject. We could talk this whole time about that.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, for contractors that are listening, I mean, the ones that have put their pricing online, what kind of things do they say about the success that they've had with it, and then vice versa? What were their kind of the apprehensions to get going and start it in the first place?
Yeah. The number one thing we hear, and not to be, overly simple here, but it's higher close rates and higher average ticket. Because they're capturing customers who are further upstream in that consideration phase, and they're engaging with them through that process. They're interrupting that pattern. They're getting out to the home and they're selling the job like they normally would. The biggest apprehension is baked into this idea that is so ingrained into the industry. And this is why there's so much passion around the subject in 2023 and even in 2025. And that idea is that if you cannot get into the home to build value face to face with that customer, then it's all about price and then you'll never get an opportunity. Or there's also this degradation of a consumer who is most concerned with price on the front end. We call those, the industry would call them tire kickers, right? Or not your customer if all they care about is price.
You'll always have those people
totally.
in every market,
and,
right?
And everyone, price is part of the equation. And so the challenge is, as you've had more and more information come online and available over the years, consumers can do this research on their own. So there's a bit of leverage they have through the buying process, and that they can get 3 or 4 estimates, maybe not necessarily pricing, but they can size up a company before contacting the company they invite to their home. And so that has only been accelerated by what we were just talking about before we went live here, was AI search. ChatGPT launched a browser yesterday. So I also, this brings me back to this idea of leverage. And when I first got into the industry, I had a customer in Littleton, Colorado, and they did new construction. So they worked for all the big builders out there. And I was out there in 2010, 12, and there's a little bit of a rebound in new construction. So they were building, they were blowing and going. The builders had tons of land, they had tons of developments, and they were building houses. And I remember the contractor bringing me in and he said, "Hey, we need to look at the pricing on these systems because I got to fill out this sheet for the builder." And when I looked at the sheet for the builder, it had all the raw material costs, how much are you paying for this item from the manufacturer? How much are you paying for this sheet metal from the distributor? And it had the dollar amount and the percentage amount of profit and income that would go to the owner of the company, right? On the most detailed line item you could possibly ever see. How much is the owner of this company going to make off this particular house? And The reason I bring that up is the only reason that was possible, the only reason that was appropriate, and the only reason someone complied with that was because the builder had so much volume and leverage, right? Well, now it's different. The homeowner has the leverage. And I'm not suggesting now that they have so much leverage that they want to see an absolute itemized price of how much money is going to this and that and the other and overhead and all those sort of things, but they need a little something, right? They need a little something. Another thing I'll add, again, back to like in 2013, you were posting ideas about online pricing. I mean, I was getting kicked out of message groups, best practice groups, and those things when I was talking about that in 2021. So I can only imagine how controversial it was back then. Like, it was absurd back then. But one of the assumptions that another assumption that a contractor might make is like, if someone wants to see pricing, I have to show my complete itemized pricing. And then this is where they get defensive and they use the steak analogy, or they use the, do you get a car delivered in parts to your driveway analogy? Like, there's all these analogies to like make the consumer feel stupid for wanting to know like how much things cost. And consumers aren't expecting a breakdown of full parts and materials and those sort of things. Maybe in the future that might be a different model. But they just want, like you said, like a rough idea of what they're getting into so they can go down that purchase process. So,
yeah, I mean, one of the things I found is if you're an American, you are a professional consumer. Even contractors are consumers. So what I've tried to do in my company is, sit in the place of the homeowner. And when I first started my company, I was a homeowner, but I wasn't my target market. I was really young. But I just think about, if I'm a homeowner and I'm looking to replace my heating and air conditioning system, what kind of information would I want? And why wouldn't other people want that information as well? And I would want some sort of price range from somebody that I could potentially buy from, right? That's my buying process for absolutely everything. And I don't care about all those little pieces and parts. What I want is, what's the kind of out the door price? And if you have to give me a range, that's fine, but I don't care how much profit is in the Samsung refrigerator I buy. I don't care. Enough, whatever they need it to be. I know it's $2,500, and then I'll look at maybe Lowe's and Home Depot and see, okay, well, it's close, but I've used Best Buy before, and maybe I get 0% for 18 months. They have it in stock. Let me just go with them. So I feel like, if we think about it from the homeowner standpoint, won't we win the market? That's just my feeling. And I do get what other contractors are saying about being fearful for it, but are there any industries that have put pricing online and it's just killed their ability to sell? I don't know.
I mean,
because everything's online.
Yeah, the most immediate one you could look at is the auto industry. They went through this in 2012 and 2013. But I want to pull a string on something you just said. And you said, you just want a price, an idea, you want to get a range. But really what you want is you want to reduce your uncertainty and reduce any fear or anxiety you have around just figuring out if you can afford something, whether you have the cash or the credit or whatever. Like, people just need to they got to know what know what the band of cost is going to be on something. And the challenging part for HVAC, unlike cars, and there's a lot of differences, of course. I do not want to draw too many comparisons, but the challenge is you might make this purchase once or twice in your life. And the further challenge is you're more often going to make it under stress because of equipment failure or because of a comfort issue, right? Like, if it's not working, or safety. So you have to make this very expensive decision in a short period of time. And then you have to go through barriers in order to reduce your anxiety and doubt. That's the thing. Like, oh my gosh, it's broken. I need to have someone out here. They can come out tomorrow. And then that period of time from now until they get out here tomorrow, what's that homeowner doing? They're searching online.
Kind of freaking out.
Searching
online to figure out if at the end of the conversation, they're going to be super embarrassed by figuring out that they can't afford it and that they should have tried to call a truck and a truck. Because, I mean, that guy does serve a percentage of the market that only can afford that. They don't have the cash. They don't have the credit, that they need to just pay somebody in a 6-pack of beer. right? And it's a bad situation as a salesman to go out and people cannot afford the systems that you have. Yeah, but you're right. That's the mentality, that's the thought process in a homeowner's mind. But as a contractor, we never experience that because we're not worried about our HVAC system. We're also usually a little handy. Or we know plumbers and electricians and things like that. So really everything in our house, we kind of don't have that stress that the homeowner has. Right.
Yeah. And
so, yeah, I get it. That makes
I'll
sense.
add something to that purchase and research consideration phase. When you have a contract, let's say you find out you need a major repair or a major replacement, and you go to Google and you find a great contractor and they're scheduled to come out tomorrow. Maybe they're scheduled to come out at 5 p.m. tonight. That's great. That contractor's still going to go online and start doing their research. What they're going to do when they try to reduce their anxiety, reduce their fear and uncertainty, they might look at, Thumbtack or Angie's List or somewhere to try to get ahead and start educating themselves. Once they do that, they fall into a funnel for lead aggregators. So one of the very simple things we're trying to do is say, hey, if a customer is curious in your market about how much something costs, we think that you should give them that answer. Okay. So you're going to set up online pricing. You're going to set up this funnel. You're going to set up these buying journeys. And when that customer goes through that buying journey, you're going to interrupt that pattern by contacting them immediately. You're going to have someone in the office call and say, oh my gosh, is everything okay? I noticed you're shopping for a water heater at 10 p.m. at night. Is there a water issue? Do you need demand service? And they're going to say, no, I'm just trying to figure out how much it costs, right? The contractor can then take that as a good lead or a bad lead. They can say it's a bad lead. They were just looking for pricing, or they can say, this is a great opportunity to earn the trust of a customer. And it might not be a today purchase. It might be I'll tell you what, we can send someone out there whatever it might be, but it's a great opportunity to keep them away from the internet, basically. And we haven't even talked about AI search yet, but it's a whole nother ballgame.
Because Angie's List and Thumbtack are not going to help them. They're just going to, and I think that every contractor's used them to maybe some success. Mine was iffy. But you're right. They're a lead aggregator. And as a homeowner, when you're looking at it, you're like thinking, oh, I'm going to get the information I need. And then next thing you know, it's like trying to find life insurance online. Your number's out there and people are contacting you forever. And you're kind of like, well, now how do I even know who's good and who's not good? Because I didn't really research these contractors. They just dumped them in my lap. So I've always thought, that you want enough information for a customer to make a decision for you to come out to their home on your website. I don't want them to leave the website. I want enough information that they go, I think this company will, solve my needs. So, yeah. And Siri's talking to me right now. So the phone it's always listening, right? So yeah, very, very interesting stuff. So, we have this, you guys have optimized this for the HVAC space, right? And maybe some plumbing. I think you talked about water heaters and things like that. I don't think that there's other contractors in other spaces that are doing online pricing to this level of, that's this well thought out. So are roofing contractors doing this yet or anything like that? Or are they still maybe going old school?
They are. We're expanding horizontally to as many home service categories as we can. We generically named the company Contractor Commerce under this idea that every contractor will have an online store, not just HVAC, plumbing, electrical. So the industry that is further ahead than others in this space would be roofing and solar, of all places. And I think that comes from the idea that most of the calculations are external to the home and can be viewed by satellite, but also the competitiveness of that area and the demand and the scarcity of opportunities has created, there have been some entrepreneurs out there who've figured this out. So, solar and roofing do not have the best, reputation, right? From whether it's door to door or whatever. So solar and roofing are a little bit further ahead, but we're working with contractors now who are doing, exterior pools, like outdoor pools, and landscaping and pest control and decorative indoor shower head or shower doors, those sort of things.
Yeah.
We're building around this idea that we want to be the platform for every contractor who needs an online store. So, it's so interesting because when we launched the business to now, the things we can do with AI to help our customers move faster are, as you know, they're unbelievable, and they're compounding.
Think about how well guided the journey can be. Whereas when you started, it was just an if then. Man, my goodness, I don't know if you guys have it, but you can use augmented reality to show what the new faucet's going to look like installed. And so, I mean, I think contractors have to ask themselves, is this the way that consumers are going to buy in the future or not? It's kind of one or the other, right? But yeah, wow, AI search and AI guided workflows, nuts, man. So anyways, yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the other question we have to ask is, if we really, really zoom out here, is, what role will AI search play in consumers making, purchase decisions from a contractor? And how does a contractor either benefit from or not be a part of AI search? And we can't answer that today on this call, but like, that work needs to be done. We're doing that work. And, if you look at, ChatGPT is moving so fast, or OpenAI is moving so fast. And, just yesterday, ChatGPT announced their new browser, which I want to put a pin in and talk about. But, a couple weeks ago, they launched their app marketplace. And Thumbtack was one of the first apps within that marketplace. I know you and I were sharing.
Very interesting how that works.
It'll be very interesting.
I would update your Thumbtack profile if I were a contractor.
Right. And, not to plant like a little Easter egg, but if I'm a contractor, I would want my own app within ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I would want bills, heating, and that is important work.
I want to be the source of information for what I provide in my area, wherever the customer gets that information, right? And it was Google. And Google Maps were super strong. I built my whole business on just getting great Google reviews. Today, that's like something you just have to have, like a website. So the contractors that are able to get in front of what's next will win the market, right? They'll have their customer acquisition cost to be lower. And I mean, whenever you can lower your customer acquisition cost, that's a win, right? So,
yep, exactly. Yeah. But this isn't at all related to the context of this conversation. But yesterday, ChatGPT, OpenAI announced the name of their new browser. It's Atlas. Yeah. Following few weeks of ServiceTitan announcing their AI Atlas. And this is me just being gossipy and speculative at this point. But like, if I'm ServiceTitan, I'm so upset about that, because they're building their own branded AI that now shares the name with what people are going to use as the off-the-shelf AI. And I don't know, maybe that's an unbelievably...
I'm changing the name if I'm ServiceTitan.
If you're ServiceTitan, yeah, I don't think you...
Yeah, you wouldn't. That's the worst SEO thing it could possibly be. There's no way they thought that was good. But they haven't super branded that, right? They have however many contractors they have, but if they change the name to it, we wouldn't, as contractors, it wouldn't be a big deal for us.
No,
that's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like their product people, their marketing people, these brilliant people, and like, what are the odds and the coincidence and the potential confusion that it would create for the contractors? And maybe it's nothing, right? But I would be super annoyed if someone named something my thing. And what are you going to do? It's OpenAI. Like,
yeah. Maybe ServiceTitan send them something that want you to change that name. We'll see how that works.
That would be a strong move. And
they're both strong companies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Definitely.
I think OpenAI has a little bit more cash than they do right now, but yeah, the AI search is going to be very, very interesting. I just downloaded that browser today and was working with it. And on one side of it is your previous chats. And then on the right side of it is your AI assistant. And I wanted it to redo a playbook that I put together in Canva, because now this AI assistant will, you say, take over my browser, and it moves your mouse around for you and starts reading what you're looking at. So if you're already logged in to something, you can just tell it to do stuff in the browser and it will start doing it. And you just kind of think about, on the user standpoint, for the person using the browser, how much different it's going to be. It's going to be very different. And browsers have been the same for 30 years for the most part, right? But going back to the homeowner and consumer experience, homeowners are going to have a pretty in-depth conversation with these chatbots if they're not already. And they're going to be very, very well prepared to make a purchase decision by the time they reach out to a contractor. I mean, I've gone through and asked as a consumer, I've asked, like, I need to replace my HVAC system or my AC in my house. How much does it cost? So just the most basic question you could ever ask. And it gave me a range of options based upon efficiency. And then I said, well, I'm in South Florida and my house is 2,500 square feet. What's that going to cost? And it narrowed it down. And then I asked, where'd you get the information? And it showed me 3 contractors that they pulled the information from those contractors' websites. And it was just a range. But, those contractors that are ahead on that technology probably will get the call. And the guys that aren't won't know they didn't get the call. That's the problem. You don't know you didn't get it.
Yeah.
You won't know you didn't get an at bat, right?
Yep. And that's been, and thanks to you too, but that's been a huge driver of success for us and our customers is they're being found on search because they actually have the information on their website that is not just a blog page that's there for SEO purposes. Like they're actually giving helpful down to the SKU level of this is how much this costs to do from our company, whether it's a price range or a monthly price, et cetera. So yeah, I know that's more and more every day. That's becoming more relevant, and thankfully.
Yeah. I mean, and you see what guys like Jimmy Hiller's company, they have this true transparency pricing that's pretty much everything that they offer. I don't know if they do it for equipment, but they do it for actually service and repairs. They'll say, if it's a basic repair, which is 80% of the jobs we go to, because they have that data, they know that 80% of the jobs they go to are $350 with the labor and the service call and the parts and everything. And they know that 10% of them are $800 to $1,200. Well, why can't we share that information with the customer? And again, you're right. It comes back to fear that you really are changing the way that you communicate with customers. And, this industry has always been pretty shy to change. Gosh, how long even when iPads came out, contractors wouldn't use them. So we've always been not really forward thinking, but there are forward thinking contractors. And these younger guys that are getting into owning businesses some of them are very, very forward thinking. So I think we'll just see more of this over time,
Yeah. Yeah. And I go back to what you said about Hiller too. Like I can't think of a scenario where building trust with a customer through transparency can backfire. Like if it truly costs $350 to $850 for most repairs and sometimes $1,200 over that, and you share that with a customer, all you're going to do is give the customer a little, they're going to build a little trust. And if you miss that opportunity, if that customer couldn't get at that information elsewhere and you rolled a truck to get there and they were expecting it to be $150 and they would have never had you out there if it would have been $150 or if it would have been more than that, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. And that the people who recognize that are the people who are winning with us for sure. But it's pretty straightforward.
You put it on your tech to try to sell the difference of that $200, which technicians don't really want to do that. They would much rather go out and do what they like to do, which is make customers happy and fix things. And if the customers have a pretty good idea what it's going to cost because you're transparent up front, then the techs will be a lot happier and it'll be easier to find techs because then you won't have to have the skill set of somebody who really knows how to fix things and on the other side of their brain knows how to communicate extremely well. So I thought about using true transparency pricing. I didn't get to incorporate it because I sold my business, but I just thought it would be great for technicians when they arrived at the house. I thought it would be a better experience for my staff and for the customer at the same time.
Totally. And I'll just share two things. There's this the thing that's hard for technicians is they become the bearer of bad news, right? In their iPad, they have
Yeah.
the cost of things, right? And so when they're engaging with a customer and they have to get the iPad out and they have to start clicking buttons and doing those things and building the price, it's done so in relative privacy, right? Well, when
Hmm.
on their
Yeah.
device, the technicians that we're working with who can say just one slight nuance, they can say, hey, here are the 3 repair options that we could do today. If you do need to replace it, one of the things we do here is we put our pricing on our website. So this is objective. This is what every customer would pay. Now I can customize it. There's 3 options on the website. Honestly, there's 100 different water heaters you can do. So we'll take a
Hmm.
look at those, but it takes the price reveal, responsibility of the technician and makes it this objective thing that is kind of a third party and safe. And no one's trying to take anyone for a ride, right? Because
Hmm.
of whatever they see in the driveway or whatever. But I'll add this is a surprise that, we encountered this early and now it's really consistent. We had situations where our customers were having homeowners go through and get pricing on their website while the technician was in the home.
Hmm.
And we didn't expect that. So what's happening is the technician's upstairs doing repairs, the contractor's going online looking for pricing to figure out, like, should I get it replaced or whatever? And in most cases, like, there's that period of time where the homeowner's without the contractor. And so what would happen is these leads would come into the inside sales team, and the inside sales team would get it, and they're like, Broadview Street, we have a technician at Broadview Street. And it was super confusing, right? Is this a duplicate? No, this is a customer doing what you and I do from the Ford dealership. Like,
Right.
I mean, how much is a new one anyway? Right? They're not
Right.
going to ask that. I mean, of course you can ask somebody, but they want to do it on their terms. And so that's been a really interesting, positive surprise for us here.
Yeah. I mean, as a consumer, you don't want that conflict, right? Because you have an expectation of what something's going to cost in your mind, even whether it's founded or not founded. And when somebody else has that information and the expectations are widely vary, then you kind of feel like a dummy as the consumer if you were thinking it was a lot less. And when the salesperson's trying to convince you, then you also kind of might feel a little bullied and pressured into raising your expectations. So again, setting that expectation in front of a computer with a consumer to the computer doesn't have that feeling, the same feeling as it does when you're, face to face and things like that. So yeah, that's very interesting. I wouldn't think that would happen, but it makes sense now that I think about it. So, I would think some contractors would say that their market is different than other markets, right? So have you seen examples? I mean, you guys probably have, have the system all over the United States. So is there a variation from one market to another? Or you see things pretty similar?
Yeah, there's one of the variations is pricing and pricing transparency. So in some markets, you have contractors who do not show monthly price; they just show full price because they're kind of brazen and they're like they've got a lot of search volume, they've got a lot of demand. The price is what it is. So in some of those markets, I think high performing contractors in Phoenix and Houston can get away with that. Where in other markets, you have to be much more broad. But what we found is some contractors go like good, better, best, but all small range, right? So like a $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 system with the idea that like they can probably land on one of those systems, but they want to get someone in the home to sell something more. Whereas in other markets, it's a much broader, 12,000, 18,000, 26,000. So we see contractors doing that in markets like Northern California. There's some markets in the Northeast that are a little bit different. So it all just depends. I would say that most contractors are showing cash price and a monthly price, and that we encourage contractors, especially if they're in the higher tier pricing of their market, to start with monthly pricing. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, most systems are ranging between $10,000 and $20,000. That's kind of the good, better, best range, and yeah, and that's coast to coast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think about it. I mean, gosh, what percentage of contractors in any market have online pricing? And then you give a customer an online price and they might go look at another contractor, but then they get that, like you said, that SEO word stuffed blog post.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that the contractor who gave the pricing and the transparency would probably get that call over the other one. I just think
Usually.
about it as a consumer.
Yeah, not just get the call. The key is they're trading that price for all the customer's information, right? They're trading
Yeah.
that price for that customer to go through and give their name, address, phone number, system type, venting type for water heater, how many toilets do they have, whatever those sort of things, right? They're gathering all that information, and the consumer is giving that information away because they're getting something high value in return. How much is a Bradford White water heater? And so even before getting that call, it's being able to communicate with that customer because you've got all their information, because you've got their IP address, because they just spent a minute and 20 seconds on your website versus bouncing. The majority of people that go to the homepages of contractors bounce. They leave. Large majority, like 95% just leave. And so, yeah, they're definitely getting the call. You asked what percentage of contractors in markets, it's growing fast. We've got contractors all over the US and Canada, and I would say, you're starting to see 3, 4, 5 per major market, 6, 7, 8 in some other markets. I think here in Charlotte, there's 8 or 9 contractors who just have their full system pricing online. And I should clarify, like they're not putting their whole price book online. They're not putting SKU by SKU. It's kind of good, better, best, small, medium, and large, like just a framework. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So where do you think like the trend is heading in this industry? Do you think that every contractor will need to have their pricing online just to stay competitive? You think that'll become 100% the expectation of consumers if it isn't already?
Yeah, it already is the expectation of consumers. I see a world where every good contractor has an online store, and every good contractor with a website. And I guess what I mean by that is like when 2012, 2013, when people were going around the country saying, oh, you need a website, it's your digital storefront. There were a ton of contractors who were like, no, my customers, like, they call me. Why would I need a website? Like, I have an office. Like, there were people who believed that. Now, all of those people who were early skeptics have websites, even if they're not even engaged with it. Like, they're using an agency or whatever, they're paying some AdWords, they're doing things. All of those people will have some sort of e-commerce and some sort of online pricing, especially because of AI search. Like if you look up agentic search or agentic e-commerce, these are this is the idea that physical transactions for goods and services will be made on applications like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. The ability to make it super, super easy for your customer to buy something on their terms from your website is going to be very, very important. And I can't see a world where consumer behavior would shift backwards and say, I'm not going to use all these tools. Now, of course, if you've got a relationship with your contractor, you're just going to call them. You're just going to have them come out. You're going to text them, whatever. Like, that's what I do. But that's because I have that relationship. But only 1% of the market is in the market for a replacement for a major home, whether it's a pool or an HVAC system or whatever. And they're not in relationship. So that now we're dovetailing into like, this is why if you're an HVAC guy, you need to have your customers on filter memberships or membership plan in general. Yeah. So it's another conversation.
Oh, membership plans are still huge from what I've seen as far as the metrics go. 50% of my business each year was from, recurring customers. And it was great. Those are systems in the waiting, right? It's like planting a farm and watching the apple trees grow, and you get to pick a certain percentage of them every year, and it's predictable. I've seen some things about contractors saying that memberships are dead. Now, maybe they're going to be different the way they are, but keeping customers will never be dead.
That's the line. And it goes back to what you said. When we were talking, kind of riffing about AI before we started hitting recording. It's like, yeah, you can use AI and AI can be powerful to your business, but what you really need are systems and processes. You can use AI to help build those systems and processes, but then you also need really good people, right? And some people will be replaced and some people will just get more awesome because of AI, right? Yeah. I say this joke in my house, like, the only way to lose your job to AI if you're working for me is if you're not using it to get better, right? If you're not using it to get better and faster and more efficient, bring more value to your customers,
it's still just a tool. That's
it's
what
just a
it
tool.
is today.
Yeah, it's just a tool,
Right.
and everybody needs to chill out. It's just a tool.
It's a powerful tool. It is,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, if we look at technicians, I've always thought that the best technicians on the technical side are the ones that have the best tools and know how to use them. That's it. So I mean, we added digital manifold gauges in the industry, and there were a lot of technicians that were against that. I don't need that, but it's been proven that you use that tool, it's better, you're faster, you're more accurate, and you provide a better customer experience because customers don't want you to be out in their home for a long period of time. They want to get things done and get back to watching their, doom scrolling through Facebook. They want to get back to that. They don't want the contractor in the house, So yeah, it's, the AI stuff's going to be wild, but like you said, it always will come down to people. People are the ones making the decisions. The customers will always be people. They're not going to be robots. And that's going to be the measure of a great company, is going to be its people. So I think of AI as something where it can knock out some of the things that you'd have to go in your office and spend your time in front of your computer, not being with the people. Let's get these things automated, and these are things that still need to get done, but I need to spend time with my staff, with my technicians, make sure that they're getting everything they need, not playing around on ServiceTitan all day. Right. So, so for contractors, listeners that are still hesitant, is there a way they can kind of do a low risk thing to kind of, test the waters rather than just go all in? Is there something they can do like that?
Yes. So the first thing that, we used to let contractors just sign up on our website. We just let them go, put in a credit card and become a customer. And the problem we had with that is we found some customers, like they do that, right? They'll just try the latest thing or whatever. So what we like people to do is go to our website and schedule a demo with someone on our team. Let someone on our team walk you through how this works for other people, and also determine if this is a good fit for you. Like, you have to really get the most out of this. You really need to be a type of company that implements well, right? And can manage change and all of those sort of things. And we help with a ton of that. This is not a hard implementation. It's really, really straightforward. But yeah, go to our website and, go through and request a demo, watch a demo on demand. You can watch a quick video to see how it all works. But spend some time with myself or someone on my team to walk you through how this works for other people. And, in all circumstances, contractors who, decide whether, and it's modular, so you don't necessarily have to do pricing online. You don't have to do buying journeys. You can sell the systems directly on your website. You can kind of like walk, crawl, run. But in most cases, if people follow our onboarding process and they fit our ideal customer profile, and they show up to the meetings and can manage change within their organization, they'll have tremendous success with this.
That's great. That's great. So, man, this was an excellent conversation. I think you gave the listeners a lot to think about, especially on this topic that really stirs debate and probably will for a while, So if any of the listeners want to learn more about Contractor Commerce, I'm going to drop a link in the podcast where you can go and you can schedule that demo. And man, I really appreciate your time today. This was great. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, Bill, thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Congrats on what you're building. And, we're cheering you on, man. This is great.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Home Service Hacks podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss a future episode. For more information or to connect with Bill, you can check us out on Facebook at ServiceTitan Hacks or visit our website at ServiceTitanHacks.com. We'll see you next time.